on Monday after class, and they said to me that there has been a change, and unfortunately I was not properly informed of it. But can I just get an idea from you? Did you get the announcement that I posted on Canvas about the change? Just give me a thumbs up. That's all I need. I don't need.
No, sir, I haven't seen it yet.
Does that mean you haven't been on Canvas?
Oh, every day on Canvas, but I did not see that announcement, sir, mate. But Lwando said as well now he hasn't also seen it, sir. So
Okay, which is strange because I checked and people, it appears that I'm not going to have any images for you, but as I said, I'll just walk through it anyway and discuss it. So take notes as we go along. Obviously, the recording is not going to be similar to the ones we're used to. I'm not going to waste time finding out the technicalities. I can maybe just try and reboot and do everything during the 5-minute break between our two sessions today, because yeah, for some other reason, it doesn't want to work on the side. But I'll figure it out. Don't worry about that. People, two things I want to bring to your attention. Hey, the announcement that was posted on Monday was yes, there has been a change in the timetable. My apologies, I've not been informed of it. The announcement also again confirmed what the timetable looks like at the moment and would look like for the semester. Okay. We do not have class on the Monday anymore. Remember, we had that double period on the Monday. We don't have that on a Monday anymore. So you don't have to be bunking anybody's class. There's no sales and ops on a Monday. This period was usually 1. It will now be 2, right? And on Thursday, we've added another session. You would usually on the first day have done, I think, the 5th period or the 3rd period. Now you have the 3rd and the 5th period. So the double has been replaced with the extra class, or to replace the double of a Monday, it's now extra one on a Wednesday, and it's an extra one on the Thursday. It's on your timetables. The one that's been posted to you, the one that you showed me on Monday, Andre, that is the correct one. That's the one that we'll follow. And from that's 100% correct. Yes, Luandu, that is the correct one. That's what the timetable says. I've changed the links on the calendar as well to ensure that it meets the new time slots. Okay. So from my side, I just want to share with you the following as well. Try and get into the habit of checking in on Canvas and checking on announcements specifically, because this morning when I phoned into the office and I said, guys, massive headache, still battling since yesterday with the side effects of my 2nd vaccination. I won't make it to campus for this period that we're in right now for the Bellville students to do it in class. I'm going to do it online. That was also posted as an announcement on Canvas this morning at about 8 o'clock to say for students who are coming to the Bellville campus, there won't be anybody there. I won't be there myself. The timetable says it's a campus contact session, but I won't be there. And then also that the classroom obviously will be open if there are students in Bellville. Anybody in Bellville on campus at the moment or not? Are you all online? Just a thumbs up would be good. No wonder you're on campus. In the classroom on S2, or are you in the library or elsewhere? Okay, good. I will be on campus tomorrow. for tomorrow's sessions. Tomorrow's session for the Belleville students. Sorry for all the logistics that I'm going through. I'll be on the campus tomorrow for the Belleville students. The third period, 9:35, will be a contact session. Room S1. I'll be in room S1. For the Centurion students, obviously, I will be doing online from there. Fifth period is an online session for both Belleville and Centurion students. People should just get into the habit, check those announcements. Then also something else I just want to bring to your attention. On Friday, after we finished our classes on Friday, from 11 o'clock on Friday, class test number 2 will be available again, online quiz, class test 2. I'll remind you again tomorrow. I'll remind you again on Friday, chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7. Again, multiple choice. Again, 25 marks. Again, half an hour. Okay. Chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7. We are busy with chapter 7, although you can't see anything on the screen, and my apologies again for that. But chapter 7 deals specifically with the planning of the sales call, or often referred to as the pre-approach. Right. In this chapter, we'll be looking at the importance of sales call planning. We've done prospecting, so we remember when you pick up the phone and you phone a potential prospect, because they are still leads when you phone them. They become prospects once you've qualified them. That's why making that call is not the same. You're not trying to do anything else but establish a rapport with the customer and find out if they're interested. For those who are interested, you will continue to do what we are going to do in chapter 7, and that is to try and sell the appointment, not sell the product, sell the appointment to the customer. Setting sales call objectives, something that we'll look into in this chapter as well, and how to compile a prospect profile, because that's part of the planning. Once you have phoned the customer, they've shown interest, they've actually committed to a day or a date for you to visit them and do a presentation, you have to plan. You have to get as much information as possible. That's your research. That's where you compile your or use the information to compile a prospect profile. Right. Those are the things that we're going to be looking at, as well as what the pre-approach process is all about when you are planning for your presentation. Right. Basically, people often said that, and you've heard this before, that people who are have extrovert personalities are better salespeople. In other words, it's implying that if you can talk the talk, you'll be able to sell. Well, we know that that is not necessarily true, because the whole selling process doesn't just rely on your ability to speak fluently and easily, and as a matter of fact, to the contrary, sometimes people think that if people talk too much, then they are maybe sly. But the reality of the matter is, an extrovert personality is not necessarily going to guarantee you success as a salesperson. Very often, people are, and I'm like that, to be honest with you. I'm not great on the phone. I'll do what I have to do on the phone. I really thrive when I actually do eventually sit with a customer in front of me. So even now, online lecturing is good. It's fine. It's what we have to do. but I'm much easier and I'm more at ease when I'm in a classroom and there are learners in front of me, because I basically thrive on the joint energy and the vibe that is created with that personal interaction. And I know it's difficult when you're in a classroom and you have to talk to a screen, but you also have to talk to people sitting in front of you. But still, and it's a different. It's like what we saw and heard on the news about the Springboks now playing in the Rugby Championships in Australia, playing against Australia on Sunday, and playing in front of crowds for the first time since 2019. It's going to be a massive adjustment. I feel like that because I think people in that industry are entertainers, and they need a crowd to entertain. And it must have been very tough on everybody in that industry. But I feel like that, and I definitely um, am not an extrovert personality, without a doubt. Some people who see me when I talk to them and we're having a cup of coffee and I'm sharing information with you, or I'm teaching a class, would think exactly the opposite. But again, it's an indication that that is not a prerequisite. Hard work, training, very, very important. Um, and more sort of the ability to be able to negotiate um, to the point where there's always a win-win situation, because that's what you or win-win solution. That's what you want as a salesperson. You want to make the sale, but you also want the customer to leave and feel, wow, I made a good decision today. I bought a good quality product and it was a good experience. So I think, yes, very important. Extrovert personality is not going to guarantee you success in sales. Hard work, proper training, proper planning, being able um, to negotiate with the customer. In other words, paying attention to what they're saying, and not just negotiating according to your script, because then it's not going to end in a win-win solution. And we've heard the expression: if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. You have to have a plan. You have to ensure that you are prepared. My apologies. You just don't go into a match against the All Blacks unprepared. Ah, you know what? It's All Blacks. Yeah, we know they play this and we play. Let's just chill this week, boys. No, we'll be good on the weekend. No, people, you prepare. You go into detail. If you always want to be number 4, number 5, number 6 in the world, you know what? Then you can have that kind of approach. If you are competitive, and you has the objective, you have the objective to actually be number 1 and remain number 1, because you know when you are number 1, everybody's going to come for you. It's important that you plan. It's important that you plan with great detail. And hindsight is not an exact science, but I think, or is an exact science. So I think if we, those who've us since the 2019 World Cup, Rugby World Cup in Japan, they have aired, and it's currently, I think, still on DSTV. Chasing the Sun, that 6 series program that they made on the journey of Springboks to become world champions. And it was very evident throughout that entire series that the detail that went into the planning contributed massively towards their success. You still have to go out and do the job, but because you plan so meticulously, there were almost no surprises. And that's what you want to avoid. None of us like surprises. I'm not talking about birthday surprises or surprise birthday parties and these kind of things. I'm talking about in business, you don't want surprises, because surprises means that you have not planned properly, and you often find, oh my word, I'm not talking about small little curveballs. That's part of the job. But I think um, proper planning that results in you being confident when you go into a session is absolutely essential. There is a figure 7.1. I can't recall exactly. I don't have the textbook right next to me. In your textbooks, they summarize the steps that you find in this planning process. Oh yes, I think I have it on the screen, but obviously you guys can't see it.
7.1.
7.1, yes. Planning the sales call. Okay. Planning the sales call is it starts with prospecting, but that's we've dealt with. Okay, that gives you that initial information to work with. But your detail on the customer, detail on the product that you want to sell, detail on the needs specifically of the customer, and if you can actually match those two, crucially or absolute crucial in your planning process. The more information you have, at this point, more is more. The more information you have, the better prepared you will be. You're going to pick up the phone and you are going to phone a prospect now to make an appointment. A lot of planning goes into that to ensure that you are successful. Right. I know that in some industries, and with regard to specific products as well, cold calling might help, where you basically take a name, you have got no background, no history on that individual. But more often than not, if you have some information on a customer, on a prospect, sorry, much better. When the prospect is a very busy professional individual whose time is valuable, you, as the salesperson, will have to find the best possible way to make an appointment for this person. In other words, what the best part of the day is, what the best location is, and very often here, excuse me, very often here, it helps to almost find sort of a neutral ground. If it's a busy individual and they might not be open and honest with you, they might be not be that busy, but if they have shown interest, maybe sometimes make an appointment for a cup of coffee or a quick breakfast at a place that you find that's on the way to that person's work, so they feel that, you know what, they can quickly squeeze that in. They are going to have a cup of coffee. It's nice to do that. We've addressed this before. Usually the first hour of the day, the last hour of the day is not a good time in anybody, in any business, in any professional person's life to get involved in or make appointments for with a salesperson for a demonstration of a product, for instance. Those are usually the busiest times of day, where people are either at the beginning of the day getting a lot done to plan for what they have to do for the rest of the day, to check and see everything that they have planned is still, and confirm all the appointments that they have at the start of the day. So it's a very, very busy period. The last part of the day, also a busy period, because you are now, okay, right, I haven't done everything that I should have done, and you are trying to cram everything in so you get that finished. You don't have work that's left over till tomorrow, so that's also not a very good time. But it is important, and I've shared this with you before. I've had this experience before with people who phoned me when I was in the position of authority, where I was the one taking decisions on behalf of the business, and people were struggling in the whole of me, or They um, didn't struggle to get hold of me. They just always phoned at the wrong time. So when I eventually did speak to this person, I said to her that it is very important, and this is part of what we are busy doing at the moment. If you have done your planning properly before you phoned me the first time, you would know what type of business and industry I'm in. You would know what a typical day would look like if you've asked all the correct questions initially to the right person. Remember, because there's also the importance of who's the important role players in the decision-making process. I know when I was dealing with certain individuals who are very well known, I can just refer to the company Remgrow, and everybody knows who owns Remgrow. I knew that from the first time that I am doing business with this particular important VIP person, that the person making decisions, the person planning that person's day, is the personal assistant. So I have to become very good friends with the personal assistant if I want an appointment with the main guy. And you sometimes have to battle through those barriers. We'll deal with it later in chapter in more detail. But it's important to know who you have to work through, because nobody just picks up the phone and says, "Listen, can I speak to Mr. So and so?" If that person is the highest authority in that business, they've got usually one or two people that you have to go through before you can get to them. They're not going to be answering the phone if you phone them. You're going to work through a switchboard. You're going to work through a personal assistant. You're going to work through a secretary. Those are very important people to be friends, and they're also valuable sources of information because they will tell you what the diary of Mr. So and so looks like for that particular day. And it's a question that I often used when I was still doing a lot of, not cold calling, but a lot of prospect calling, was to ask that person, now, in your opinion, ma'am, what time of day would be the best time for me to speak to Mr. So and so, or to make an appointment, or to call when he might be available for 5 minutes time on the phone, because she knows that. And she's a valuable source that will be able to share that with you and help you in your planning. Because sometimes a lot of people waste too much time in their planning, in trying to find the right way in to a particular prospect. And it doesn't happen all on the first call. Very often, it happens only on the fourth or the fifth call that you've made, that you actually do get an opportunity to make an appointment. Remember that business people, professional business people, are successful because they are serious about their business. So when you make your appointment with them, it has to be something that is seen as important. Make sure that when you phone them and you actually to make the appointment, that is stressed. So I know that it's you are a very busy person. I'm not going to waste your time. The product I want to share some information with you is going to save you even more time, because I know that you don't have a lot of time. And that should be and is usually a very helpful trend to follow when you are trying to make an appointment with an important business person. Excuse me. The person that I've referred to, the secretary, already expressed it's extremely important to find out who the gatekeeper is in a particular business, because that is the person that's going to get you through that door. And sometimes that's the person who's going to that you actually have to sell to in the first place. Very often, if they are not interested, they're not going to get you an appointment with the person who you want to speak to. Influencers, we know, especially nowadays, very important. Interestingly enough, on Monday we spoke about, when we did good news, bad news, we spoke about ABBA releasing a new album and going on virtual tours, and South Africa being one of those virtual destinations. Interestingly enough, they played on the radio yesterday. They played two of their songs, and just to get the feel from everybody, what their opinion is, if they like the music or not. And to be honest with you, I think it didn't go down well. I'm not sure, but I still believe at the end of the day that that they have a particular market, and as long as it's clear that at the end of the day they don't want to go up against Diolipo and Justin Bieber and all these people. It's not to them. It's just they wanted to, and it's actually a very nice. If you go onto ABBAvoice.com, it's a site that explains to them why they actually start making music again. It's not the intention to be competitive again and sell albums. And we know they're always going to do well, and they're always going to have supporters because of the sentimental element. And if the music chart, so be it. But that wasn't the intention initially. But I think there's a lot of influences that play an important role in shaping people's idea of what to expect, because they're still making the same music than they did 40 years ago. I mean, it's simple. They're going to change the recipe, and that wasn't the intention. If they wanted to compete with the current local artists, they would have taken a new, different style, but then it would have been the original band. So again, people have to put everything into context, but influencers play an extremely important role in shaping people's thoughts, and it is important that we also are aware of the business structure at where the prospect that you are contacting is working, because then it's sometimes very valuable to chat to a person who's not necessarily a prospect, but a person who whose opinion will influence the prospect that you are trying to contact a great deal. This comes with experience. But often a lot lie in the type of question that you ask and who you ask it to. Very important also to establish if the person that you are phoning is the person who's the final decision maker. Is that the person who's going to make the decision, or is it somebody that, or is it in? And I'm specifically referring to business clients. Are there a lot of other? Is there a board of directors that they need to consult? Is there a particular structure in a business that include a lot of decision makers that you have to convince? Because then it's sometimes better not just to talk to the prospect, but then to have a meeting and a presentation to all the people who are going to have a say in the final decision. There is no golden rule, people. as to which one of these gatekeepers, influencers, decision makers, who you should see first. It's different from one situation to the other. It varies from industry to industry. It varies from product to product. But no hard and fast rule here. That's why the ratio between the number of calls that you make and the number of successes that you have is a big one. It's usually almost double the number of calls that you have to make for half the success that you're going to get. You need to have 50 appointments, and you need to phone at least 100 people for you to be able to get 50 appointments or 50 presentations. It's just it's a numbers game. It's a tough numbers game. So if you can find out who the right people are to make the appointment with, you are going to save yourself a lot of time. Because there's something that what salespeople, a lot of salespeople hate, but it's also because they haven't planned properly always, is that they make an appointment with a prospect, they do a presentation to that prospect, just to find out that that prospect has to also is interested, but also needs to include 2 or 3 other people. Then it's another. Then it eventually becomes 3 or 4 presentations. Now you remember the person that you already presented to. Either that person is convinced, and then he will influence the other people that needs to be part of the decision before you do the presentation to everybody, or that person still needs to be convinced, and therefore he's not going to necessarily influence those others, and you have to repeat the decision. It could sometimes even be that that original person that you presented to now changes his mind, or become bored because they've heard it before. So rather spend more time in your planning before you pick up that phone. Because once you pick up that phone, you have to be 100% prepared. You need to be over-prepared. Like Bruce Ford said in his book, when I asked him about rituals that he goes through before a race and what his state of mind is before the start of a race, those years in the 80s when he won 9 Comrades marathons in a row. He said, I always ensured that when I get to the starting line that morning at 6 o'clock, before the Chariots of Fire play and the gun goes off, I always ensured that I felt undertrained and over-prepared. Undertrained, not being too confident, over-prepared, confident enough that you've done all your legwork, because that helped to settle his mind. So people, believe in yourself, make friends with those gatekeepers and influencers and decision makers in the prospect's organization, and don't waste time when you're calling the wrong people. That's where I'm going to finish now. I'm going to stop the recording as well. Despite the fact that we didn't have any images, I will still upload this recording. What I am going to do is I'm going to stop at this point. We're going to resume. Let's resume. Let's resume in about 5 minutes. I'm just going to try and reboot everything and go through the whole process and see if maybe we can't have a better presentation for the second session. Okay, I'll see you guys in 5. Hi, everybody. How are you doing? All good?
All good.
It's good to hear. As I said to Tarquin, I'd much rather finish a bit earlier today. I can feel that 4 sessions in a row now, in my condition, I'm losing a bit of speed, I'm losing a bit of concentration and focus. So, guys, with my apologies, I'm going to push it through. I went through the slides as well, and I'm glad that you can see the slides now as well. So, I'm going to. I looked ahead, and there's a point up to where I want to go, and then I'm not going to continue. There's not a lot left in this chapter, but I'm definitely not going to rush to finish this particular chapter. Some of what we've already addressed so far, you'll find on the screen. Selecting the right. My goodness, sorry. Making the appointment over the phone, a few things that we just want to, the next couple of slides we've addressed already, and I just want to highlight some of the more important ones on each of these. When you make an appointment over the phone, make sure that you use a method that you are comfortable with, that works for you. You don't have to necessarily, if the other person doesn't like it, it's fine, but you have to be comfortable. If you're comfortable, the other person will pick it up in your tone of voice. Use methods that works for you. Be prepared. Prepare a script. I think sometimes my parents stayed with me after I started working already, before I got married, and I think sometimes my mother saw me walking in the garden around the swimming pool at the back, and I didn't have a phone in my hand or anything. I was just preparing a script for a presentation or for a call, and she must have thought I was crazy. But it helps. It helps to prepare. It helps to go through it. I tell you what, it sounds very easy until you have to do it. I remember the first time in hard lockdown last year when we had to do pre-recordings, which we then upload in the video format for the students. We didn't have these sessions, and then later on we had the Zoom sessions, and in addition to the Zoom sessions, we also still had the pre-recordings. I thought, you know what? You've got the work, you've got the slides in front of you. It's quite easy to do a recording. Tell you what, people, it's like making a movie. Not that I've made a movie, but it's take after take after take. And the one thing that initially bothered me, because we were all sort of stuck at home in our offices, are all the different domestic noises, from the garden services cutting your lawn to the neighbor's dog barking and stuff like that. And every single time that sort of happened almost halfway through or in the last quarter of your presentation, and you thought, oh, geez, okay, right, let's start from scratch again. And then you realize later on, you know what, you're never going to get finished if that's the case. And you lose a bit of authenticity as well. But it is important to sit down and actually read the script, record it. You have got those functions. Your phones, all and these devices have that. Record and listen to what you are saying, and listen to how you sound, because it's extremely important. It gives you a lot of confidence as well if you get it right. But it's important if you can get a glance into what you sound like and what you are saying before you actually pick up the phone to contact the prospect. Select a good time to phone. No, there is no such thing. Whatever time you're going to call is going to be a bad time. It's going to be either a distraction from work if you're phoning somebody at their work, or it's going to be interruption in the leisure time if you call them after hours. It's as simple as that. There is no good time. There is one thing that you can, however, decide, and that is when, and that's part of your preparation. When do you want to schedule the appointment? Have options available. Often that helps it helps. Teresa, I had similar problems with my Wi-Fi this morning as well. So therefore, yeah, it's a frustration. So let's just battle through that and hope it disappears. But I always, yeah, I haven't heard that parastatal supplier that has been so reliable for us over the last number of years when it comes to electricity supply. And I don't want to name their name because I think they're bugging my room and they're going to know it, and then they're going to start load shedding again. I'm pretty sure that's going to kick in at some point very soon as well. Things that's just been too quiet, and that usually that's a dangerous sign to me. Make sure that you have a couple of options available when you of times that you can contact the customer can make the appointment. So let's say, for instance, you phone a customer, you talk to them, they're quite interested. Difficult question is always, okay, so what would be a good time to see you, sir, for me to come do the presentation? That is way too wide options that you are offering the customer. Break it down. What day in the week is the best time for me to contact you? Because I know people are usually very busy on a Friday, and Mondays are also chaotic. So is there any particular day in the week that suits you best? That's a good question to ask. It's also a good question to follow up by Wednesday. If they can't make it for 10 because they've got another appointment, then they will not actually, they will exclude it themselves. You won't even know that. They're not going to say, oh, geez, you say 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 12 o'clock. Well, I've got a 10 o'clock already. No. They won't say that. They're not even going to consider that because they know they have a 10 o'clock. It immediately takes that option out of the removes that option. So it's either 8 o'clock or 12 o'clock. Again, two choices. Given the choice between two, the chances are very high that you pick one. Given the choice to decide yourself, you very often are not going to make a decision at all. So give the person options on when you can come and see them for the appointment. The one at the bottom we've already addressed. First and the last hour of a day of a working day is not a good idea. Never, never, ever. I talk from experience there. Once again, there's no golden rule here as to what works and what doesn't work. You build the experience as you progress. You're going to make mistakes, and through them, you'll get better. Because every person, every prospect is different. You can have a generic solutions prepared, but you need to do your homework on each of the individual ones. And although there are certain standard aspects that you have to have in a conversation, make sure that you actually prepare for each individual separately. You are busy as the person that you're trying to sell to. In other words, the buyer is just as busy as you are. They also have deadlines to make. They also have objectives to reach and goals to achieve. Make it worth their while. That's all. I think when I upload the recordings for today, I'm also going to upload that recording, and I'll put it on Canvas under week 5, additional material right under your slides that you find on Canvas. That video clip from Wolf of Wall Street. Perfect sales pitch. Classic example. Right at the beginning of the movie. Classic example. Summarizing everything that we've done up to this point today. Selecting the right place. Very often people find a neutral ground a better option. Sometimes, remember, when you're making a call to a prospect, they're more than likely not going to come to you. Unless the type of product that you are selling is of such a nature that you can't really move it easily, and you require a demonstration to show them how this particular piece of machinery works, then you're going to try and get them to visit your particular establishment where you can show it to them. Alternatively, you don't necessarily want to go to the customer or the buyer's business. Not that you feel threatened, but they sort of have that advantage sometimes, and you'll see that very early on in the or hear that very early on in a conversation with a prospect. If they are reluctant to meet elsewhere but their own location, their own office, their own business, where they feel in control, where they know where everything is, and it is important that you that they are in a comfortable environment and not you. You are the invader. You are the seller. You are trying to sell them something. They need to be comfortable. And if they're comfortable in their own work environment, so be it. Just prepare better then. Planning the sales call. If you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. You've heard that. No substitute for good planning. Nope, 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 nope. Right. Let's look at some of the reasons for properly planning a sales call. It builds your confidence. We've identified that already. It projects a professional image, because if you come across well prepared, immediately the impression that the buyer will have of you is a positive one. It helps to save time, not just for you as a salesperson, but also for the person who, the prospect that you are selling to. Make sure that you are flexible. Remain flexible. I said bend over backwards, but don't break your back. And also, if you plan the sales call properly, it will also improve your chances of long-term relationships with the prospect, because you will appear professional, because you are prepared. People know when you're prepared or not. I know every single day when I do an online presentation to students, I know at the end of a session if I've done a good presentation or not. I feel confident some days more than others. I went to bed very early last night. I felt like a train has hit me. I was not very well prepared for today's session, but the essential components still were covered and needs to be covered. And yes, you know, and it happens every single time. There's no there's no exception to this rule. You can be very well prepared, but then the presentation itself is not great. You can be extremely underprepared, and then you actually just have an absolute ball and a brilliant presentation. People, just remain flexible. Think on your feet, but if you think on your feet and you are better prepared, it will be easier to adapt to a situation. If you're unprepared and you have to think on your feet, then you're going to find yourself in trouble. So be prepared, so you can be flexible in certain situations, in most situations, because you don't know exactly. Remember, every single question that you ask a prospect, they've got one of two options to answer. What is the first thing you do when you get up in the morning? Anybody?
Pray.
Shave.
Pray.
What's the alternative option?
Not to pray.
There's there's two things. Every situation you have two choices, people. I heard it from a motivational video I watched many years ago. It's almost 20 years ago. Somebody got mugged and got shot and he almost died. And he told his story afterwards. He said that you have a choice. And I've just modified it to this scenario now. I just thought of it now and I thought, all right, what's the first thing that comes to mind? And that was getting up out of bed because this morning it was tough. You get up in the morning. You've got two things. Switch on the light, because then you can see where you're walking. Or you can use a cell phone's light. Or you cannot, and you walk into something and then something can happen. If you walk into something, there's also a consequence. It could be a painful or it could wake you up. There's always two choices. Do you go to the bathroom first or you go to the kitchen first to make some coffee? There is no right and wrong. It's different for all of us. But in every situation, you have two choices. When you're selling, exactly the same. You have two choices. The buyer also have two choices. Make sure that you give those choices to them. Remain flexible, because if you're unflexible, they are going to. You're not going to fall. You're going to probably end up making this up, but you're not going to have a long. But you probably would have killed the opportunity to form a long-term relationship with that customer. When you're setting, or the steps that we referred to earlier on in the planning sales call, is to obviously set objectives. What do you want to achieve with this particular phone call? Gather information before, so you are well prepared. Develop a prospect profile, and then obviously also have a presentation that you have sort of prepared already, but that you will modify once you have made the sales call and you have more information, because the information that you will gather this is in preparation to make the call. You haven't made the call yet. You will have more information after you've made the call.
Hello, Claire. What's up? Okay, and you?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
Under your mic.
Oops, sorry guys. Sorry. I'm just on the phone.
Thanks, Andre. Setting your objectives. Remember the main objective. And I'm going to leave you with this today. I don't want to advance beyond this point because then we'll have to repeat a lot of things tomorrow. So my apologies. I'm losing speed. I'm losing focus. And as I said, I'm actually, I can feel I'm getting worse. I'm not feeling great. I'm going to leave you with this and summarize, and then I'd much rather tomorrow just revise this because we have way more than enough time to finish everything properly. But I want to do a good delivery and not just a half-baked product. When you're setting objectives for your sales call, it's very important, people, to remember the following. You always are trying to sell the appointment and not to sell the product. When you are in conversation with the prospect, make sure that you still share with them essential information about the features and the benefits of the product. You're not going to just, oh, so you know what? I'm just waiting to make an appointment with you so I can actually come and do a presentation for you about this new product that we have. You have to tell them what the product is about. You have to establish, you have to show them what the value is of the time that they are sacrificing to listen to the presentation. If they cannot see value, in other words, how they are going to benefit from it, you're going to waste your time. They might just say yes to get rid of you and be nice and kind to you. And you're going to waste your time because you're going to put hours into doing a presentation or preparation for the presentation, then a presentation, and actually a customer doesn't need the product or want the product. Make sure, and all of these, like with any objectives that we set, is that you apply the SMART principle. And that's where the measurable and timed aspect comes in. Make sure that that you capture the information from the particular conversation, use it in your planning for the presentation, and make sure that you know by what time. You don't want to phone a prospect today to make an appointment at the end of the month. By that time, you almost have to start from scratch because, no problem, Andre. You always have to start from scratch again. You want to make the appointment as close as possible to the time of your current call. If it's too far into the future, you almost have to start the whole process from scratch when you get to that point. And then also finally, make sure that your objectives that you set is realistic. Will you be able to make 10 phone calls today? Considering all the things that you have to do today. Considering that every conversation is probably going to take you 10 to 15 minutes. Based on the script that you've prepared. Based on what you want to achieve and want to share in that conversation with the prospect. If it's not enough, or if it's too many calls to make, then change your objectives. Make sure that you can set realistic objectives. Because if you do not set realistic objectives, you're going to get to a point where you don't achieve them, and you're going to feel that you're a failure, that you haven't been able to do it. But very often when we fail to achieve certain objectives, it's because the objectives that we've set were too unrealistic. So make sure that your objectives that you set remain very realistic. People, I've got a massive migraine at the moment. My sincerest apologies. I think I've used more than 10,000 words already for today, and that's why I'm actually battling at the moment. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to knock off an extra couple of minutes today, and I'd much rather just going to recover for tomorrow.
We're basically at the end, Jaco.
We are very close to the end of this chapter, but if I rush it now, it's going to be a
just relax, dude. Get yourself right.
It's not going to be pleasant experience. And also, as I've said to you before, the slides are the slides, and the slides are on canvas. You have it. We have the recordings. We have the recordings of the sessions, or the recorded sessions via Teams, because we want to interact and share experiences and examples, and your own experiences and my experiences. And I think that's where the value lies. So, people, my sincerest apologies. I'll make up the time for you tomorrow. Don't worry about that. I'm going to stop the recording and I'm going to upload it sometime tonight. But